So the Panthers quarterback situation has just been in influx all season anyway. So things are really starting to get even more complicated as Kyle Allen, who started out pretty hot as a starter when he took over for Cam Newton, has really starting to cool off as the season has progressed. So in this video, we're going to talk about the future of Kyle Allen and is it time for him to possibly go to the bench and give somebody else a chance to play? We're starting right now. What up, dude? What's up, everybody? It's Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. This is a channel where I might not tell you what you want to hear, but I'm definitely going to tell you what you need to hear. And I have to do that in this video because we're talking about the Panthers. And that's what I do here on Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I give recap and analysis of the team. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. That way you don't miss any videos when I drop them. And make sure you give this video a thumbs up because this is a very important video when it comes to the Panthers and their future. But hey, real quick, down below in the comments, let me know what you thought about Kyle Allen so far and his part of the Panthers organization going forward. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. So let's start from the top, man, and just paint a timeline of this whole situation. So we know the story about Kyle Allen starting out winning his first 4 starts this season, not throwing any interceptions, having 7 touchdowns. The team was pretty much rolling, beating up on some pretty inferior opponents. Of course, obviously the only playoff team that Kyle Allen beat as a starter was the Houston Texans, and he didn't play great in that game anyway, so it's hard to give him full credit for that. And starting out, obviously, he didn't throw the interceptions, but he did have the fumble issues. But people were tripping out on it, but it seems like, okay, this seems to be more of a fixable thing that you just need to work on practice, and it will get better with time, and you can fix that with more game experience. But some other things that really started to come to fruition also. So the bright side is that he's still 2 games over 500 as a starter this season, but with all the winning that was going on early on, Panthers really started to look over some of the faults that were coming up for this, and now they're really starting to show their head as we start to play tougher opponents. The reason for Kyle Allen's early success was just because the Panthers overall as a team was playing great. They were leading the league in sacks, they were second in the league in turnover margin, and they were second in the league in starting field position. That means they were getting shorter fields for Kyle Allen and getting turnovers that allowed the team to really take advantage in the offense, really to just pretty much put stuff in cruise control. Not to mention that you had the best running back in the league that pretty much all you had to do was turn around and stick the football in his stomach and good things would happen. But teams are really starting to catch up and starting to kind of let Christian McCaffrey get his, make him work hard for it, but allow him to get his and make sure nobody else on the team beats you. And that's been pretty successful as the team has lost 2 games in a row. However, in these losses, it's becoming very, very evident what exactly the issues are here. Look, I'm not going to lie, man. I'm a Panthers fan, man. So early on, once I saw him winning, I was like, okay, still, we had a pretty good team around him. We may have a chance to still make a push for the playoff. But slowly but surely, as these losses starting to unfold and you see how they unfold, expectations have really been switching from a playoff berth to let's just go ahead and get the season over with because it's been a disaster from the jump. My issue is, yes, we don't expect him to be perfect, but we did want to see him continue to get better. And that's initially the track that he was on early on. You could see him constantly going from just a game manager to just being out there as a body to kind of start to take a little bit more control, have a little bit more swagger and moxie in interviews and stuff. And his play started to kind of reflect that. However, after he ran to the buzzsaw in San Francisco, things have taken a 180 and gone a complete opposite direction. And it's not just the mistakes, it's repeating the same mistakes. Like I said, in Green Bay, he had a turnover where he fumbled a snap. That kind of just whatever. That's a rookie mistake, mechanics, what happens. But the red zone turnover where he's stepping up in the pocket and he could have easily taken off and ran for a few yards, but decided to force it into double coverage, ended up getting intercepted. Here against the Falcons, we have a very similar situation where he's stepping up in the pocket in the red zone again, mind you, and he could have got about 5 yards, slid, lived to fight other down. He decides to force it. The corner baits him into it, undercuts the post, and intercepts it in the end zone, taking points off the board. When you turn the ball over in the red zone, that's automatically at least 3 points off the board because you have a dependable kicker that can get you points when you're that close. So you pretty much just have to learn that when you're making decisions, you want to make the decision to not turn the ball over because you have points on the board. You can't go broke making a profit. And it seems like Kyle Allen is trying too hard out there to force the issue, and it's coming back to bite him in the butt. He's not really seeing the whole field when it comes to that. And it's just frustrating to watch because he has 10 turnovers in the past 4 games, and it seems like as soon as he got over the fumbling issue, that's when he started making bad decisions and started forcing the ball and getting interceptions. But what we saw in this Falcons game is finally the lack of protection up front from the Panthers offensive line is really starting to get to his head. He's starting to get happy feet. He's scrambling when he doesn't have to, and he's staying in the pocket when he should be scrambling, and he's starting to not set his feet and get sloppy with his mechanics. Things that we saw present with Cam Newton, and people criticize Cam Newton constantly for not improving on in his career, which some of it can be attributed to the offensive line being in your face. So we're starting to see that the common denominator is the people around the quarterback position, not necessarily the quarterback. And Kyle Allen today, for the first time, he wasn't making interceptions because of bad decision making. He was making this interceptions because of poor passes, high passes that were sailing, just throwing the ball when he shouldn't be throwing the ball, when he should have been eating the ball and taking a sack, or forcing the ball in the red zone when he shouldn't have. So it's really been tough because things have really started to turn. It's been really a mixed bag, so you really don't know what to expect. So that's what we're here to discuss, because the Panthers quarterback situation is in a muck right now, because if you listen to the national media, the Panthers need to trade Cam Newton because Kyle Allen's the answer. If you've been watching the Panthers for at least the past 3 weeks or at least the whole season, you know that Kyle Allen probably isn't the answer that which we figured out by now as far as the future, but he could be a bridge if we wanted to save money and get rid of Cam. In my opinion, like I said in my video before about trade cutting or keeping Cam, they should keep Cam for one more year. Make sure they squeeze out of the juice out of that before they go into a complete rebuild. Because to me, if you get rid of Cam Newton this offseason for Kyle Allen, that tells me that you're going into quarterback unknown, because you don't know what you have. Then you end up maybe having a decent team around them like the Bears, but your quarterback is garbage, so it doesn't even matter. And then you're wasting the career of a generational talent like Luke Kuechly or a generational talent like Christian McCaffrey. But that's where we are right now, though. But for this year, I say right now, it's time to go to Will Grier. It may not be this week, it may not be the next week, but I think we will definitely see Will Grier in some significant playing time before this season is over. It may not be time now, because I don't think it's not as bad from inside the organization as it could be or will be. Losing to the Falcons is tough, but they've been on a hot streak these past 2 weeks, but the games don't get any easier. There's only one give-me game left on the schedule, and that's the Redskins. The rest of the games are either division opponents or Seattle, or even Indianapolis will be no pushover either when it comes traveling out there at the end of the year. So you know it's going to be tough. So the quarterback competition is going to be better. The defense may not be better that you're going to face, but there's a lot of type of different pressure when you're going against a good quarterback, because you know they're going to perform, so you have to perform also, regardless of how good of the defense you're going against. So that's the thing about it, and that's the one thing that's been showing its head for Kyle Allen too. Will Grier, I'm not going to lie, I was off him. I told you guys earlier, if you've been following me since training camp, I don't like Will Grier. I don't think he's the answer. I mean, I probably haven't seen enough, and it's probably premature. But the nonchalantness he had, and some of the lackadaisical effort he showed in preseason, the carelessness that he threw some interceptions with, it just seemed like he wasn't all the way there, and I expected a lot more of him coming out. I wanted him to be a little bit more polished, because that's what I thought he was coming out of West Virginia. But he wasn't that. I know North Turner and them liked him a lot in the pre-draft process, so maybe it's time for him to go. The coaching staff has said that he's been getting better going against, as a scout team quarterback, going against our starting defense. So they said he's made some progress, so I think that's kind of channeling and kind of setting the table for him to get a chance to play. I think they need to find out exactly what they have. That way, when they bring back Cam Newton next year, they know who they want to be a quarterback, because Kyle Allen is, of course, a restricted free agent, and he's only going to be on the books for $500,000. But if Will Grier has really made the step that you need him to make, but he's not quite there, is he comparable to Kyle Allen? The way Kyle Allen's playing, 10 turnovers in the last 4 games, it doesn't get much worse. So my reasoning for going to Will Grier is, one, it seems like our playoff hopes are pretty much going to be down the drain. Of course, with a general manager and a head coach whose job is on the line, they're going to keep coaching to the end. They're not going to give up on this season until it's over with. However, looking at the long-term future, it's probably over for this season. There's 5 teams in the NFC already that have 8 wins, and the Panthers are sitting presently at 5-5 as I make this video. So it's going to be really tough to catch those guys, especially playing Atlanta again in Atlanta, New Orleans twice, the Seahawks, and Indianapolis Colts. So it doesn't really get any easier, of course, for their schedule on the back end. So it's going to be tough sitting at 5-5, and it pretty much is what it is, writing on the wall for this season, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I'm typically a pretty optimistic guy, But I'm just being realistic right now, guys. My expectations kind of got tapered as soon as I heard that Cam Newton was out for the season, because I kind of pretty much knew how I felt about how Kyle Allen would perform down the stretch, and I knew what our ceiling was with Kyle at quarterback this year. So that's why I think Will Grier deserves some playing time, whether good, bad, or indifferent, whether this week, next week, the week after, it doesn't matter. But I think that Will Grier definitely deserves a significant playing time just to see where he measures up at and to see what we can get out of him. Because to me, like I said, the season's probably over. We got to empty the clip when it comes to these gunslingers in our backfield just to see what we have going forward and how to make decisions. I know Kyle Allen will be a restricted free agent after this year, but if Will Grier comes in, he doesn't play as bad or comparable to how Kyle Allen has played, what incentive do the Panthers have to keep Kyle Allen next year? Like I said, I mean, granted, he will be only $500,000, but if you feel like you're going to give Cam one more shot and you thought that Will Grier was going to be the future from the jump anyway, because remember, guys, the plan was to draft Will Grier as a third-round pick as a quarterback, him to play well, for them to get rid of Heineke and Kyle Allen in the preseason, which they want to do. But Will Grier didn't make the progress that they expected him to make coming out of school, so they knew he wasn't going to be good enough to be the backup. So they had to keep Kyle, and they kind of forced our hand. And then with Cam Newton getting hurt, Kyle Allen just stepped in and ended up playing well early on, so it made the situation a little bit more cloudy. But remember, the plan was for Will Grier to be the future. You know what I'm saying? So if you believe that Cam Newton can be healthy and you're going to bring him back, you can get back to that plan that you originally had with Will Grier being the guy for the future, Cam Newton possibly being the bridge for the next 1, 2, 3 more seasons until you feel Will Grier is ready. So you can get back to business as usual if you find out what Will Grier has and if he tends to be, like I said, halfway decent. Like I said, I do not think this change will happen immediately. I give it another game or two with maybe some struggles depending on who we play, because we do have the Saints and we do have the Redskins. If Kyle Allen struggles bad against the Saints, would the Redskins be a bad enough team for Will Grier to come in and make his first career start in? Possibly. There's still it will be 5 more games left. Is the season pretty much over if you put in Will Grier? Pretty much. So I don't really see Ron Rivera making a decision that quick, but you never know, man. This is the NFL. Anything can happen. But we definitely need to see Will Grier because he can't be any worse. But like I said, the Panthers always stood pat on what they wanted to do with Cam Newton. They never decided that they wanted to trade him, cut him, keep him. There was always just rumors stirred up by the national media that just didn't like Cam, or they wanted to see Cam in a bigger market like LA or New York or Chicago. That way they could pick on him even more. You know what I'm saying? Because Charlotte doesn't get a lot of love when it comes to the national media. So it's all media driven, man. The Panthers really said anything, and that's smart by them because I think they had a feeling that this stuff would kind of play itself out and Kyle would kind of turn into a pumpkin from when the clock struck midnight from the Cinderella night at the ball. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's still a tough situation, but I think it's time for Will Grier within the next month for sure. You know what I'm saying? There's 6 games left in the season. I expect him to get at least 2 games under his belt to play in this league this year. That way we find out where he's at. So you guys let me know down below in the comments, do you think it's time for Will Grier? If not, how long should they wait before they play Will Grier? If Kyle Allen continues to have another game or two like he did today, or like he struggled before, like Green Bay or San Fran, how long do they leave him in there before they put in Will Grier? Let me know down below in the comments. But without further ado, I'm Aaron Duncan signing off. I'll see you next time.